On a cold evening, Malik Ward sat on the same cracked bench where the city's bright lights seemed to forget him. He smelled the cheap coffee of the corner diner and watched people hurry past like he was air. Then he heard a child crying. The mayor's daughter, Imani Reed, alone and soaked in rain after a protest turned chaotic. No guards, no press, only a small girl with red eyes and trembling hands. Malik, who had nothing left but his pride, wiped her face with the sleeve of his worn jacket. In that quiet moment, something broke inside both of them. The mayor's family saw a haggard stranger comfort their child, and for Malik, years of being invisible suddenly held a mirror to a buried honor. He didn't save her to be praised. He saved her because once a friend betrayed him, and he learned to give what others refused. That single act spiraled into a chain of events. A secret promise, a danger faced alone, and a truth that would make the whole city ask, who really deserves power? This story is not about fame or pity. It is about how one homeless man changed a daughter, a mayor, and a city, and how kindness can force the powerful to remember what they lost. The city never really slept. It just changed sounds. During the day, it was the noise of business shoes, car horns, and people chasing minutes they could never catch. But at night, the noise turned into something else. The quiet hum of lights, the whisper of wind through alleys, and the soft cough of a man trying to stay warm. That man was Malik Ward. He sat on a long wooden bench beside the old courthouse, a bench most people didn't notice. The paint had peeled off years ago, the metal legs rusted from every rain. But to Malik it was home. It was the one place where no one asked him to move, where he could close his eyes and dream of the days when life was different. Once Malik was a construction foreman. He built houses for people who would never know his name. He worked with strong hands, honest sweat, and quiet pride. Then came the day his friend, a man he trusted, took the credit for his project and left him jobless. The company believed the lie. Malik lost everything. No savings, no job, no justice. He searched for work for months. When rent fell behind, the landlord threw him out. One small lie took away his life. Still, Malik didn't hate the world. He told himself, "You can lose everything, but don't lose yourself." Every night, he'd sit on that bench and watch the city lights blink like broken promises. He'd smile at strangers who never smiled back. He'd nod at security guards who avoided his eyes. Sometimes kids pointed at him and laughed. He never shouted. He just whispered, "God bless you," and closed his coat tighter. He survived on small kindnesses, a sandwich from a church, a blanket from a stranger. But more than anything, he survived on hope. Hope that one day, someone would look at him and see more than a homeless man. Someone who would see the man behind the worn clothes and tired eyes. That night was colder than most. The wind cut deep. Malik tucked his hands under his arms, counting the minutes until dawn. Then he heard it, a sound that didn't belong to the night, a soft cry. At first he thought it was the wind, but then he heard it again, trembling, human, young. He stood slowly and looked around the park. In the dim light near the fountain he saw her, a young woman sitting on the wet concrete holding her knees, crying like the world had ended. She wore an expensive coat, now soaked and torn. Her hair clung to her face and her hands shook with cold. Malik hesitated. In this city, even helping could look wrong, but the sound of her sobs broke something inside him. He walked closer and spoke softly, "Miss, you okay?" The girl looked up quickly, her eyes wide with fear. When she saw his worn jacket and rough face, she flinched. Malik stepped back, keeping his hands visible. "I won't hurt you. I just heard you crying." For a moment, she said nothing. Then her voice cracked. I don't know where I am." Malik looked around. He knew this part of the city better than anyone. "You're near Jefferson Park, miss. You shouldn't be out here alone." She wiped her face, trying to hide her tears. Her voice trembled. "I was supposed to be at my father's dinner. There were cameras. Reporters. I ran away. I just needed air." Malik nodded slowly. He had seen those dinners on TV. Rich people smiling under golden lights while the city's hungry watched from the shadows. "You got a phone?" he asked gently. She shook her head. "It died, and my driver. I don't know where he went." Malik took off his old jacket and placed it over her shoulders. "Here, it's not much, but it'll keep you warm." She hesitated. "No, I can't take it," he said softly. "I got another one back there." He pointed toward his bench, though that was a lie. It was his only jacket. The girl looked at him again, this time with less fear and more disbelief. "Why are you helping me?" Malik smiled faintly. "Because you need it. That's all." She stared at the ground, her voice breaking. "Nobody ever helps me just because I need it." Malik didn't know what to say to that, so he just sat beside her. The rain fell softly, tapping on the bench, the fountain, their coats. For a few minutes they said nothing. Only the city spoke. Distant sirens, rolling tires, and the wind whispering through empty streets. Finally, she whispered, "My name's Lily. Nice to meet you." "Lily, I'm Malik." She looked at him again as if his name had weight. "You live here?" "Yeah," he said simply. "The city's big, but the bench is mine. It don't complain much." Lily gave a small, sad laugh. "You're funny," he smiled. "You gotta be. Are the cold winds?" For the first time that night she smiled back, a real, gentle smile. The streetlights flickered. A car passed by, spraying water on the road. Malik stood up. "Come on. Let's get you to the bus stop. It's safer there." Lily hesitated again, but then followed him. She walked beside him in silence. People across the street barely looked at them. A homeless man and a soaked girl, invisible in a city of glass and greed. At the bus stop, Malik gave her the last thing he owned, a half-empty bottle of water. "Drink this. You'll feel better." She nodded, her voice small. "Thank you." "Malik," he nodded once. "You're welcome, miss." As she drank, Malik looked up at the night sky. He whispered a quiet prayer, not for himself but for her. He didn't know who she was or what her pain meant, but he felt something deep in his heart. Something that said this moment wasn't an accident. He didn't know her last name. He didn't know that she was the daughter of Mayor Richard Collins, the most powerful man in the city. He didn't know that this small act of kindness would soon shake that power to its core. For now, all he knew was that the city was cold, and he had chosen warmth, and that choice was about to change everything. The rain hadn't stopped by morning. The city woke up gray, clouds heavy, air thick with cold. Street vendors wiped puddles off their carts. People hurried with umbrellas, and somewhere, a lonely bench stood empty. Malik Ward stood under the cracked roof of a bus stop, watching Lily Collins sit quietly beside him. She had stopped crying, but her eyes were still red, her lips trembling slightly as the wind brushed her face. His old jacket looked oversized on her small frame, but she clutched it tightly like a shield. "You sure your folks ain't worried?" Malik asked softly. Lily hesitated. "They will be. Once someone notices," he raised an eyebrow. "You sound like they don't notice much." She looked down. "They notice what they want to. Not me." Malik said nothing. He'd learned long ago that silence was the kindest answer when someone's pain spoke louder than their words. He reached into his bag, a faded blue backpack with a broken zipper, and pulled out half a sandwich wrapped in paper. "You should eat something." Lily blinked. "That's yours." "I'm good," Malik lied with a small smile. "A friend gave me 2 last night." She hesitated again, but then took it. Her hand shook a little from the cold. She took a small bite, and her eyes watered again. Not from sadness, but something else. Gratitude. Malik turned away, pretending not to notice. He didn't want her to feel small. He looked at the street, buses passing, horns blaring, city life moving fast, never pausing to care that 2 strangers were trying to survive one long, wet morning. After a while, Lily spoke quietly. "You don't even know me. Why are you helping me?" Malik shrugged. "Because I can." "That's it?" she asked, surprised. He nodded. "World's full of folks who wait to be asked before they do what's right. I ain't one of them." Lily smiled faintly. "You sound like someone who's been hurt but still believes." He laughed softly. "Something like that." They stood there for another few minutes until Malik saw a police car turn the corner. He gently touched Lily's shoulder. "They're looking for you." Her eyes widened. "How do you know?" He pointed. "That car's been circling twice now. Same plate. You should go to them." Lily bit her lip. "If I go back, they'll ask where I was." "And?" Malik said. "They'll find out I ran away from the mayor's dinner, that I ruined his speech." She laughed bitterly. "He'll be furious." Malik tilted his head. "Mayor's dinner?" Lily exhaled, realizing she'd said too much. "My father's—" "Richard Collins." Malik froze for a moment. "Richard Collins and the mayor. The man who built fancy towers while closing shelters. The man whose smiling face filled every billboard, but whose policies left the poor in the rain." Malik had heard that name too many times, each one colder than the last, but he didn't flinch. He didn't change his tone. He just nodded slowly. Then I guess you should go home before half the city starts looking. Lily searched his eyes, expecting judgment, fear, or greed. But there was none. Just calm understanding. You're not going to ask for anything, she whispered. He smiled gently. Wouldn't know what to ask for. I got what I needed already. What's that? A reminder, he said. That kindness still means something. The police car stopped at the corner. 2 officers stepped out, scanning the area. Lily sighed, pulling off Malik's jacket. She folded it carefully. Here. I can't take this. He pushed it back into her hands. Keep it. Nights get cold. I'll be fine. She looked like she wanted to argue, but the officers spotted her and hurried over. Miss Collins. Thank God. Are you okay? Lily nodded slowly. I'm fine. She turned to Malik, her voice low. I'll see you again. He smiled. I'll be right here. Same bench. Don't worry about me. The officers led her to the car. Before she got in, she looked back one last time. Malik raised a hand in quiet farewell. She did the same. The news spread fast. Mayor's daughter missing for 5 hours and found safe in Jefferson Park. Cameras flashed outside City Hall. Reporters screamed questions. The mayor stood at the podium, his jaw tight, voice firm. She's safe, thank God, he said. We'll be reviewing security. No one mentioned Malik, not the officers who found her. Not the mayor. Not the press. But someone noticed. A young reporter named Ethan Price sat in the back of the crowd, scrolling through a short statement from a witness, a local bus driver. It said, a homeless black man gave the girl his jacket, sat with her until police came. Didn't ask for anything. Ethan frowned. In a world hungry for scandal, that sounded like a real story, one about decency. He decided to look into it. That night, the rain returned. Malik sat on his bench again, eating a small meal given by a church volunteer. He looked up at the streetlights and whispered, Hope she made it home safe. He didn't know that Lily was lying awake in her huge bedroom staring at the same rain. She still wore his jacket over her nightgown. For the first time, she felt small in her big world, small but grateful. Her father had hugged her for the cameras, but she had seen something in his eyes, anger, not love. She touched the jacket's sleeve and smiled softly. I'll find you again, she whispered. The city forgot, as it always did. People talked about the mayor's next project, a fancy hotel built where an old shelter once stood, but Lily didn't forget, and when she saw the blueprints on her father's desk that week, plans to demolish Jefferson Shelter to make space for urban development, she felt her heart twist. She thought of Malik, of his calm voice, his quiet strength, his kindness without reason, and something inside her woke up. For the first time, she didn't want to be her father's daughter. She wanted to be her own person, someone who helped, not just smiled for cameras. That night, as Malik sat under the street lamp, he saw a familiar car stop near the park. A figure stepped out, small, wearing a hoodie and carrying a thermos. It was Lily. She smiled shyly. I brought you hot coffee. I thought you might be cold. Malik blinked, surprised. You shouldn't be here, miss. Folks might talk. I don't care what they talk about, she said softly. You helped me when nobody else did. Now it's my turn. Malik looked at her, a mayor's daughter standing in the dark, holding coffee for a man the city forgot. He smiled. Then I guess we're even. She shook her head gently. No, Malik, not even close. The rain began to fall again, but neither of them moved. And that was the night the story truly began. The night kindness dared to cross the line between the powerful and the forgotten. The city lights glowed like tired stars that night. The rain had finally stopped, but the air was cold and heavy, holding the kind of silence that only comes after a storm. Malik Ward sat on his bench, fixing a loose strap on his old backpack. He hummed quietly, a song his mother used to sing when the world felt too heavy. He didn't have much to fix anymore, but he liked keeping things in order. It made him feel like life could still be repaired, one small piece at a time. He didn't hear the car until it stopped behind the trees. The headlights cut through the darkness, then went out. He turned slowly, expecting some officer to tell him to move again. But instead he saw a familiar figure walking toward him, a young woman in a hoodie carrying a paper bag. Evening, she said softly. Malik's eyebrows lifted. You again? Lily smiled, a little nervous but warm. You said you'd be right here, he chuckled quietly. Didn't think you'd actually come back, miss. I told you, call me Lily. Malik nodded, amused. All right then, Lily. She held out the bag. I brought food. From a diner near City Hall. It's not much, but I thought you might like something warm. Malik took the bag carefully as if it was made of glass. Inside was a sandwich, fries, and a small container of soup. His throat tightened a little. You didn't have to do this. I know, she said. That's why I did. They sat down on the bench together. Malik unwrapped the sandwich and took a slow bite. The warmth spread through him like memory. Haven't had something this good in a long time, he said, smiling. Thank you. Lily looked around. It's quiet here, peaceful, I like it. It's quiet because nobody wants to be here, Malik said, still chewing. That's the only peace some places get. Lily nodded slowly. When I was younger, I used to think the city was perfect. My dad always said he made it safe, clean, successful. But when I walk here, it feels like another world. Malik sipped the soup and nodded. There's two cities here, Lily. One that shines for the cameras, and one that bleeds in the dark. I live in the second one. She turned to him, her eyes soft. And yet you're the only one who helped me. He looked away, pretending to focus on the streetlight. Helping's easy. Seeing people, that's the hard part. They sat there for a while, sharing the meal. Lily told him about her father's meetings. The fake smiles, the dinners that felt like business transactions. She told him about how lonely she was, surrounded by power but empty inside. Malik listened, nodding sometimes, never interrupting. He didn't offer pity. He offered presence. When she finished, he said quietly, You know, loneliness don't care how big your house is. It visits everyone the same way. Lily looked at him, realizing he understood her better than anyone she knew. You sound like someone who's lost everything. He smiled faintly. That's how I learned what matters, she hesitated. Can I ask what happened? Malik took a deep breath. Had a good job once, construction. Built homes, schools, things people need. Worked hard. Trusted a man I called brother. He took my name off a project, stole my credit, my job, my future. I tried to fight it, but truth don't always win against money. Lily's eyes softened. That's awful, he shrugged. Life's like a storm. You can't stop it. You just hold on and wait for it to pass. She thought about that. Did you ever hate him? The man who betrayed you? Malik stared at the ground for a long moment before answering. I did for a long time. But hate's a heavy thing. You carry it long enough, it starts carrying you. Lily fell silent. The truth in his words pressed against her heart. After a moment, she said quietly, My father hates failure. Even small ones. He says it makes people weak. Malik smiled sadly. Then I guess he never learned that weakness is what makes us human. Lily's eyes glistened. You talk like a preacher. He laughed softly. Nah, just a man who's been cold too long to lie. The wind picked up again. Lily pulled his jacket tighter around her shoulders. You still want me to keep this? It suits you better, Malik said. Besides, if I take it back, I'll have to find another excuse to see my friend Lily. She smiled at the word friend. Then I'll keep it. They both laughed quietly. The sound echoed through the park, gentle and honest. For a brief moment, neither of them felt poor or powerful, just human. Suddenly, Malik noticed a car slowing down near the curb, a black SUV with tinted windows. It lingered for a few seconds, then drove off. He frowned. Something wrong? Lily asked. He shook his head. Probably just patrol, but you should head home soon. Late hours bring curious eyes, Lily sighed. I wish I could stay longer. Talking to you. It feels real, he smiled. Come by any time. This bench don't move much. She stood up, pulling her hood over her head. Promise me you'll be here tomorrow? Malik nodded. I'll be here. Same spot. She started to walk away but stopped halfway. Malik? Yeah. You said you lost everything. What keeps you going? He looked up at her with tired but shining eyes. Hope. It's the one thing nobody can steal unless you hand it over. Lily smiled. Then I guess I'll start keeping some too. And with that, she turned and disappeared into the misty street. When she was gone, Malik leaned back against the bench and closed his eyes. He didn't know what it was about that girl, but she reminded him of something he thought he'd lost. Belief. Not in miracles, but in people. He whispered to himself. Maybe the world ain't so far gone after all. He didn't notice the man standing across the street, Ethan Price, the reporter. watching quietly. He had followed the lead from the bus driver's note and finally found the homeless hero who helped the mayor's daughter. He took a photo, Malik and the empty bench beside him, then walked away, unsure if he had found a story or a lesson. That night, Lily reached home sneaking through the side gate. Her father was in his office pacing with a phone pressed to his ear. His voice was sharp, angry. "Yes, I know she's safe, but if anyone finds out she was with some stranger, especially him, it'll destroy our image." Lily froze. Her heart pounded. He didn't even ask how she felt, only how she looked to the public. She stepped away quietly, whispering to herself, "You'll never understand." Upstairs, she opened her window and looked toward the city. Somewhere out there, Malik was sitting under the same stars, not caring who saw, not hiding behind titles. Just being real, and for the first time in her life, Lily Collins wished she was more like him. The next evening, the sky turned orange over the city, the kind of sunset that looks beautiful from penthouses and meaningless from park benches. Malik Ward was sitting on his usual spot, the bench that had become his world. He was patching up a small hole in his backpack with an old sewing needle when he heard a familiar voice. "Still fixing things, huh?" He looked up and smiled. "Well, can't throw life away just 'cause it's got a tear." Lily Collins stood there, her hair tied back, dressed simply in jeans and a plain sweater. This time there was no car waiting at the curb. She held 2 cups of coffee and handed one to him. "You remembered," he said softly. "I told you. I don't forget friends," she replied with a small smile. They sat together in silence for a moment, sipping the coffee. The city moved around them, fast, loud, restless. People walked past without looking. Some glanced once, frowned, and turned away. Lily noticed it, the way people's eyes slid off Malik like he was invisible. The way no one said hello or even nodded. She frowned. "They don't even see you, do they?" Malik chuckled quietly. "Oh, they see me. They just don't look too long. Makes them feel something they don't want to feel." "What's that?" "Guilt," he said simply. "And fear. Guilt that they got too much. Fear that one day they could lose it." Lily stared at him, her heart sinking. "That's awful." He nodded. "Yeah, but you get used to it. World don't owe you kindness. You just give it anyway." They walked through the park, Malik guiding her through corners she'd never seen. Under bridges where old men played chess with bottle caps. Beside shelters with lines that stretched past midnight. Through alleys where kids sold drawings for coins. Lily's eyes widened. This wasn't the city she knew. Not the one with clean streets and fancy speeches. This city was alive, breathing, and hurting. An old woman called out to Malik. "Hey, sweetheart, got a minute?" He walked over and handed her a small loaf of bread from his bag. "Found it this morning. Fresh enough." The woman smiled, her wrinkled hands trembling. "You're an angel, Malik," he laughed softly. "Nah, just someone with extra bread." Lily watched, silent, amazed. "You would give away what little you have?" Malik shrugged. "If I don't, I got less reason to wake up tomorrow." She felt tears in her throat. "How can you be so good after what life did to you?" He looked at her, serious now. "Because if I turn cold, the world wins." They walked again. A man sitting by a trash bin called out, "Hey, Malik, that your new girlfriend?" Lily froze, embarrassed, her cheeks red. Malik smiled calmly. "Now, brother. Just a kind soul learning the neighborhood." The man laughed and waved. Malik kept walking like it was nothing. Lily whispered, "Does that happen a lot?" "All the time," Malik said. "But I learned something. When people mock what they don't understand, that's just their pain talking." As they reached the edge of the park, the city changed. Glass buildings rose above them. Expensive cars passed by. People in suits laughed, their voices sharp and careless. Lily looked at the shining skyline and then back at Malik, his worn clothes soaked with city dust. The contrast hit her like a wave. She whispered, "This isn't fair." Malik smiled softly. "Fair's a word for folks with choices." She turned to him, eyes burning. "If my father saw this, he already has," Malik said gently. "He just learned to look away." Lily fell silent. Malik could see the storm building inside her, the guilt, the anger, the confusion. He didn't want her pity, only her understanding. "Lily," he said quietly, "you don't owe me anything. Just don't forget what you saw today. That's all I ask." She nodded slowly. "I won't." Later that night, Lily sat at her father's dinner table. Crystal glasses sparkled under golden light. Her father, Mayor Richard Collins, was laughing with business partners. The topic was money, elections, and image. Lily sat quietly, pushing food around her plate. Her father noticed. "You're awfully quiet, honey." She looked up, her voice calm but steady. "Dad, do you ever walk through Jefferson Park at night?" The table went silent. One man chuckled nervously. The mayor frowned. "No, I can't say I do. Why?" "There are families there," she said softly. "Kids, people who don't even have blankets. The shelter roof leaks. And Lily!" The mayor interrupted sharply, lowering his voice. "That's not dinner conversation, but it's city business," she said. Richard Collins forced a smile for his guests. "We're already reviewing budget allocations. Let's enjoy our meal, all right?" Lily's stomach twisted. She realized how easily he dismissed what mattered. She looked around the table, faces full of power, none with compassion. They were talking about building a new luxury tower near Jefferson Park, the same place where Malik and dozens like him slept. Her father raised a toast. "To progress and prosperity." Lily's voice was quiet but firm. "For who, though?" The guests glanced at each other. Her father's smile faded. "Excuse me," she said, standing up. "I'm not hungry." She walked out, leaving whispers behind her. That night she sat on her bed, tears rolling down her cheeks. She took Malik's old jacket from her closet and hugged it tightly. It smelled like the city, rough, honest, real. She whispered, "They don't see it, Malik. But I do. I see everything now." She took her phone and opened a new note. At the top she typed, "Things I need to change." Under it she wrote the first line, "Fix Jefferson shelter roof." Meanwhile, in the park, Malik watched the moon rise. The city lights flickered like tired eyes. He didn't know that his quiet kindness was already rewriting someone's heart, that the mayor's daughter had stopped looking away. For the first time in years, Malik smiled not because of what he had, but because of what he had given. He whispered to himself, "Sometimes all it takes is one person to finally see you." And high above, in the mayor's mansion, Lily whispered back, "I see you, Malik." Morning light poured through the tall windows of City Hall, painting gold lines across the polished floor. Mayor Richard Collins sat behind his huge oak desk, flipping through reports while 3 assistants stood nearby, silent and tense. His phone kept buzzing. Reporters, donors, and campaign managers all wanting updates about his next big project. He looked up, his voice sharp. "Where's Lily?" "She missed breakfast again." One assistant spoke carefully. "Sir, she's been leaving the house early. Says she's meeting friends." Richard frowned. "Friends?" "She doesn't have friends who don't own a last name." The assistant hesitated. "Yesterday, one of the drivers said she was seen near Jefferson Park." The mayor froze. "Jefferson Park?" "Yes, sir." For a moment, silence filled the room, thick and heavy. Then Richard's hand slammed down on the desk. "Out of all places," he barked. "Do you know what kind of people stay there? Junkies, thieves, vagrants." The assistant flinched. "Sir, get my car ready," Richard snapped. "Now." Lily sat on the same bench with Malik, sharing a sandwich and laughing quietly about something trivial. Pigeons chasing each other in circles. It was the first time she had laughed like that in weeks. "You know," Malik said between bites, "these birds fight every day for crumbs, but somehow they always come back to share the same spot." Lily smiled. "Maybe they know peace is better than pride." He grinned. "Maybe they're just hungry." She laughed again, then she froze. The sound of a car door slamming echoed through the park. She turned and her blood ran cold. Her father was walking toward them, his black suit too perfect for a place like this, his anger written all over his face. 2 security men followed behind him. Lily stood up immediately. "Dad!" Richard's voice cut through the air. "Lily Collins, what in God's name are you doing here?" Malik stood slowly, respectful, cautious. "Evening, sir." The mayor's eyes burned into him. "Don't speak to me. Dad, stop," Lily said quickly, stepping in front of Malik. "He didn't do anything wrong." Richard's voice grew harsher. "You think I'm blind? My daughter sneaking off to meet some stranger in a park?" Malik stayed silent. His calmness only made the mayor angrier. "Do you know who this man is?" Richard continued. "He's homeless, Lily. He lives on a bench. For all we know, he could be dangerous." Lily's voice shook. He saved me, Dad, the night I ran away. He helped me when no one else did. Richard blinked. Saved you? What are you talking about? That night of your dinner, Lily said, her voice steadying. I ran because I couldn't breathe. Everyone was fake, everything was about your campaign. Malik found me crying in the rain. He gave me his jacket, Dad. He didn't ask who I was. He just helped. The mayor's jaw tightened. You're telling me you trusted him? Yes, she said firmly. Because he treated me like a person, not a headline. For a long moment, Richard said nothing. The only sounds were the wind and distant traffic. Then he took a slow breath, turned to Malik and said coldly, Whatever game you're playing, it ends now. Malik met his eyes, not defiant, not fearful, just steady. I ain't playing any game, sir, he said quietly. Just helped your daughter get home safe. Helped? The mayor scoffed. You expect me to believe this wasn't some stunt? Some pity act to get attention? Malik shook his head. Didn't even know who she was. Still don't care who she is. Just saw a human being who needed help. The mayor stepped closer, lowering his voice. You listen to me, Ward. You stay away from my daughter. You stay away from this park if you have to. I won't have her name dragged through your mess. Lily gasped. Dad. Richard ignored her. His eyes stayed locked on Malik. Malik didn't move. Sir, I don't want nothing from her. Not money, not fame, I just listened. Sometimes that's all people need. Richard's face softened for half a second, then hardened again. You think you can teach me how to be a father? Malik shook his head. No, sir. But maybe you can learn what it means to be one. That silence, that truth, cut deeper than any insult. Even Lily stopped breathing for a moment. The mayor's face flushed red. Get in the car, Lily. Now. She hesitated. Dad, please. Now. Tears stung her eyes. She turned to Malik, whispering, I'm sorry. Malik smiled gently. Don't be. Some lessons start with anger. She stepped into the car, still clutching his jacket. The door slammed shut and the car rolled away, leaving Malik alone once more. At home, the mayor paced his study, furious. She's out there, giving coffee to strangers, talking about shelters and fairness like she's some activist. His wife, Margaret, sighed. Richard, she's young. Maybe she just wants to help. He stopped pacing. Help? Do you know what this looks like if the media finds out? My daughter befriending a homeless man. They'll twist it, spin it. Maybe they'll see that she has a heart, Margaret said quietly. He glared at her. That's not politics, that's weakness. From the doorway, Lily's voice broke the silence. Maybe that's what this city needs. A little weakness. Her father turned sharply. You're grounded. Lily crossed her arms. You can ground my body, Dad, but not my heart. He froze, not knowing what to say. She walked away, leaving him staring after her, a man who had built towers but was losing his own home from the inside out. Malik sat on his bench, watching the moon rise. He wasn't angry. He'd seen pride like that before, and it was just fear dressed in a suit. He whispered to himself, he's protecting his name, not his child. Happens more than folks think. He didn't see the shadow watching him from across the street. Ethan Price, the reporter again. Ethan had followed the story quietly, sensing something bigger behind it. He whispered into his recorder, Mayor's daughter visits homeless man in Jefferson Park. Mayor furious. Something's brewing here. He didn't yet realize he was documenting the start of a city's moral awakening. That night, Lily sat by her window again, Malik's jacket folded beside her. Her father's words still echoed in her ears, but so did Malik's calm voice. Sometimes that's all people need, someone to listen. She whispered to the dark, I'll keep listening, Malik, even if he never does. And miles away, Malik whispered to the wind, one day he'll hear her, even if it's through me. Two voices, two worlds, both waiting for the city to finally open its eyes. Nights in the city always looked the same, lights shining high above and shadows stretching far below. But this night felt different. The moon was pale, the wind gentle, and Malik Ward sat quietly on his bench, staring at the sky like a man trying to find his place among the stars. He hadn't seen Lily in a week. After her father's angry outburst, he figured she wouldn't come back. Maybe it was better that way. He didn't want to cause her more trouble. He rubbed his hands together for warmth and whispered, "Guess the lesson's over, huh?" Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw a movement. A slim figure stepping out from behind a tree, holding something wrapped in cloth. "Lesson's not over," said a soft voice. Malik turned, half smiling. "You just don't listen, do you?" Lily Collins stepped closer, her hood up, cheeks pink from the cold. "If I listened to him all the time," she said, "I'd never see what's real." She handed him the bundle. Malik opened it slowly. Inside was a thick winter coat, clean and warm, and a pair of gloves. He blinked, surprised. "What's this?" "Just a gift," she said shyly. "And don't even think about saying no." He smiled faintly. "You're starting to sound like me." She laughed. "Then I guess I'm learning from the best." They sat on the bench together again. The new coat fit him perfectly, dark gray, lined with fleece. He hadn't felt that kind of warmth in years. "You shouldn't have done this," he said softly. "I wanted to," Lily replied. "You helped me when I was broken. Let me do something for you." Malik looked at her with quiet respect. "Your heart's good, Lily. Just don't let the world make you doubt that." She smiled sadly. "My father already tries." Malik nodded. "He's scared." "Of what?" "Of losing control," Malik said. "People in power think kindness is weakness. Truth is, it's strength, just quieter." Lily looked down. "He said if I ever came here again, he'd send me away to another state. Somewhere I can't embarrass him." Malik frowned. "You risked that, just to bring me a coat?" She nodded, eyes bright. "You said something once, that seeing people is harder than helping them. I can't unsee you, Malik. I can't unsee the others either." Malik smiled gently. "Then you're already stronger than him." They sat for a while in silence, watching the city breathe. Traffic, sirens, footsteps fading into distance. Lily's eyes drifted to the tall buildings far away. "It's strange," she said. "My father says he built this city. But the people who really hold it up, the ones who work, clean, cook, fix, he doesn't even know their names." Malik chuckled quietly. "That's how towers fall, Lily. Not from wind, but from forgetting the ground they stand on." She turned to him, thoughtful. "You should be the one running the city." He laughed, shaking his head. "Nah, I've seen what power does to people. I'd rather sleep under stars than in rooms with lies." A sudden gust of wind blew through the park. Lily shivered slightly. Malik noticed. "Here," he said, pulling the coat halfway off. "Take it." She frowned. "No way. It's yours." He smiled. "We'll share it. Half for me, half for you. That's fair." She hesitated, then slid under the coat beside him. They sat shoulder to shoulder, laughing softly at how ridiculous it looked. A mayor's daughter and a homeless man under one coat. "I wish the world could see this," she said. "Then maybe they'd understand how simple kindness really is." Malik nodded. "Problem is, world don't look unless there's something to gain." Lily's smile faded. "Then maybe I'll make them look." At City Hall, Richard Collins was in a meeting about the Jefferson District Development Project, the one that would tear down the shelter near Malik's park. He listened as the contractor, Dale Turner, proudly explained how much profit it would bring. "Imagine it, sir," Turner said. "Luxury hotels, a new skyline, your name on every brochure." Richard smiled, but something in him twitched. Lily's words from their argument echoed faintly. For who, though? He shook his head to clear it. "Proceed with the plans," he said firmly. "We start next month." But as he spoke, he noticed his assistant whispering with a staff member by the door. They looked nervous. "What is it?" he demanded. The assistant handed him a tablet. "Sir, there's something trending online. You should see this." The mayor frowned and pressed play. On the screen, A short video clip showed Lily sitting on a park bench with Malik, laughing, sharing coffee, wrapped together in a gray coat. Someone had filmed it from a distance. The caption read, "Mayor's daughter befriends homeless man. Real compassion or political stunt?" The mayor's face turned pale. "Where did this come from?" "No idea, sir. Some freelance reporter posted it an hour ago." Richard clenched his fists. "Ethan Price," he muttered. "That vulture's been sniffing around for weeks." Turner chuckled. "Well, at least it'll get you sympathy points. A mayor with a kind daughter." Richard glared at him. "You don't understand. This isn't kindness, this is chaos." He stood abruptly, grabbing his coat. "Cancel my meetings. I'm going home." Meanwhile, Lily had no idea the video existed. She was back in the park, helping Malik distribute food she'd bought with her allowance. A few curious onlookers watched. Some took pictures, others smiled quietly. "Looks like we got an audience," Malik said. Lily laughed nervously. "Let them look. Maybe it'll make them feel something." Malik smiled. "Careful. Feelin' leads to thinkin'. Thinkin' leads to changin'. Folks don't like that." Before she could reply, a voice shouted, "Lily Collins!" She turned. Her father stood at the edge of the park, his face tight with fury. The few people nearby fell silent. "Dad," she began, but he cut her off. "In the car, now." Malik stepped forward slightly. "Sir, if I may—" "You may not," Richard barked. "You've embarrassed my family enough." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't do anything wrong." "Wrong," her father snapped. "You made us a spectacle. The press is tearing us apart because you can't stop playing charity with strangers." Malik's voice was calm. "Maybe the city needs a little charity, sir. Ain't shame in that." Richard's anger flared. "You stay out of this." Lily wiped her eyes, trembling. "He's right, Dad. You keep building walls while people are freezing outside them." Her father turned pale. For the first time, her words hit something deeper than pride. He looked at Malik, this man who had nothing but still had the power to shake him. Then he whispered coldly, "You don't know who you're dealing with, Ward." Malik's tone was steady. "I know exactly who I'm dealing with, a man who forgot how to listen." Richard didn't reply. He turned to his daughter. "We're leaving." But before walking away, he stopped and glared at Malik one last time. "Stay away from her, or I'll make sure you regret ever stepping into this city." Then he walked off, his daughter's silent tears falling behind him. That night, Malik sat under the same streetlight, the new coat still around his shoulders. He whispered to himself, "You can't stop light by closing your eyes." And far away in her room, Lily whispered back, "Then I'll be the light." Malik, even if it blinds him. The air inside City Hall was thick, not with dust, but with secrets. Lily Collins walked through the long hallway with a clipboard pressed to her chest. Her heels clicked softly on the marble floor. People greeted her politely, but she could feel the whispers behind every smile. Everyone had seen the video, the mayor's daughter sitting with a homeless man. Her father had done his best to control the story, calling it a misunderstood act of compassion. But deep down, she could see the shame in his eyes, not because of what she did, but because the world had seen him through her truth. Lily had stopped arguing. Instead, she decided to watch, to listen, and to learn. That afternoon, she quietly slipped into her father's office as a group of men discussed the Jefferson District redevelopment project. Her father sat at the head of the table, smiling tightly. "Gentlemen, if we move fast, we'll have ground broken before election season." The contractor, Dale Turner, laughed. "And when it's done, you'll be the man who turned slums into skyscrapers." They all chuckled, all except Lily. She looked at the blueprints spread across the table. There, in bold print, were the words Demolition Jefferson Shelter, 212 West Park Avenue. Her stomach dropped. That was Malik's area. His bench, his world. She spoke without thinking. "You're tearing down the shelter?" The room fell silent. Her father turned, his voice sharp. "Lily, this is a closed meeting." "I know, but—" She hesitated. "Where will those people go?" Dale Turner smirked. "They'll find somewhere. They always do." Her father gave him a warning glance, but his tone toward Lily was cold. Sweetheart, this isn't something you understand. We're building progress, she frowned. At what cost? Richard's jaw tightened. Enough. Go home. Lily looked at the plans one more time, her heart breaking. Then she quietly walked out, but not before slipping one folded document into her bag. The park was quiet when Lily returned. Malik was sitting on the bench tuning a small radio with fading batteries. When he saw her, he smiled. Evening, Lily. Thought you might have given up on this old place. Never, she said softly, sitting beside him. She pulled out the paper and handed it to him. Look at this. He unfolded it, his brow furrowing. Demolition notice? She nodded. They're going to destroy Jefferson Shelter next month. All those people, all your friends. They'll have nowhere to go. Malik sighed deeply, folding the paper again. Figures. Money talks louder than hunger. Lily clenched her fists. I tried to ask him about it, but he shut me down. He called it progress. Malik smiled sadly. That's what they always call it. But progress for who? She turned to him, her voice trembling. I can't just sit there while they do this. Tell me what to do, Malik. He looked at her carefully. You sure you're ready for that answer? Yes, she said without hesitation. He nodded slowly. Then listen close. Change don't start with shouting. It starts with truth, small, quiet, patient truth. You find it. You share it. You don't back down when they call you crazy. Lily's eyes filled with tears. But how do I fight them? They have everything. He smiled softly. So did Goliath. But David didn't need armor. He just needed aim. They sat in silence for a while, the sound of the wind brushing through the trees. Lily whispered, Sometimes I wish I was born into your world. Malik chuckled. No, you don't, my world's heavy. But maybe God put you in yours so you could fix it from the inside. She looked down. Maybe that's why we met. Malik nodded. Maybe, then his voice grew serious. But be careful, Lily. Power don't forgive truth easily. She met his eyes. Neither does silence. Lily began her quiet rebellion. While her father thought she was attending charity meetings, she started visiting local shelters under a fake name, Grace. She listened to people's stories, wrote them down in a notebook, and took photos of the broken roofs and moldy walls. Each night, she'd text Ethan Price, the reporter who had once filmed her. She didn't trust him fully, but she trusted his purpose. Her message was short. Meet me tomorrow. I have proof about the mayor's contractor. Ethan replied, You're serious? Very. When they met the next day at a small cafe, Lily handed him a file she had secretly copied from her father's office. Inside were financial records showing that Dale Turner's company had received millions in public funds meant for shelter renovations. Money that never reached the workers or the roofs. Ethan looked up, stunned. This is real corruption, Lily. If I publish this, it'll destroy your father's administration. She swallowed hard. Then let it. People deserve to know the truth. He studied her face. Are you sure you're ready for what comes after? Lily's hands trembled, but her voice stayed steady. Malik once told me, hope is something nobody can steal unless you hand it over. I'm not handing it over anymore. Ethan nodded slowly. All right. I'll verify everything and print it, but if this blows up, don't let anyone twist your kindness into politics. She smiled faintly. They already did. I'm just taking it back. Lily rushed to the park to tell Malik what she had done. He listened quietly as she spoke, every word full of fear, courage, and fire. When she finished, he nodded slowly. You did right, he said. Now comes the hard part. Standing still while the storm hits. She looked at him nervously. He's going to hate me. Malik's eyes softened. Maybe for a while, but truth got a way of turning hate into healing. Takes time, Lily sighed. You always sound so sure, he chuckled. I'm not sure, Lily. I just learned to believe even when I can't see. She smiled through her tears. I wish I had your strength. You already got it, he said gently. You just didn't know its name yet. What's its name? She asked softly. Courage, he whispered. Headlines exploded across the city. Mayor's contractor linked to missing shelter funds. Collins administration under investigation. The mayor's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters crowded the steps of City Hall. He threw the newspaper onto his desk, his hands shaking. Who leaked this? He demanded. His aide hesitated. Sir, it might have come from someone inside. Someone close. The mayor's eyes narrowed. He didn't need to ask who, he whispered. Lily. That night Malik sat on his bench, watching flashing lights far away from City Hall. He knew what those lights meant. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "Truth don't whisper forever. Sooner or later it sings." The city woke up divided. By noon, every news channel carried the same headline: Mayor's daughter behind major leak, political sabotage or heroic whistleblower. Some called her brave. Most called her reckless. But everyone was talking. Outside City Hall, reporters shouted questions. Protesters held up signs, some demanding justice, others defending the mayor. Inside his office, Richard Collins sat like a storm waiting to break. His phone buzzed nonstop, his campaign donors calling one after another. "How could you let this happen?" one yelled through the phone. "You were supposed to control the narrative." Richard slammed the phone down, his hands trembling. "Control?" he muttered. "She's my daughter, not a campaign slogan." But even as he said it, part of him knew. He had turned her into one. He rubbed his eyes, exhausted. The newspaper on his desk showed two pictures side by side. One of him shaking hands with the contractor Dale Turner, smiling for cameras. And the other of Lily Collins walking through Jefferson Park with Malik Ward. The caption beneath it read, "The mayor's two faces, power and poverty." His world was burning, and he didn't know how to put out the fire. Malik felt the change before he saw it. When he walked through the park that morning, people whispered. Some pointed. Others avoided him completely. He heard the words, "That's him. The one with the mayor's daughter. Probably used her. He's after money." Malik kept walking. His steps were slow, his eyes calm. He had seen hate before. It just wore a different suit each time. When he reached his bench, two men were standing there. They worked at a nearby store. He nodded politely. "Mornin'," one of them sneered. "You really think you're special, huh? Getting cozy with rich girls now?" Malik sighed. "Ain't like that, yeah?" The man stepped closer. "Then why's she fighting her daddy for you?" "I didn't ask her to," the man scoffed. "Bet you didn't mind the attention, though." Malik stayed silent. The second man muttered, "People like you ruin everything good. Always crying poor while stirring trouble." That one stung a little, and not because it was true, but because it sounded like something the city itself would say. Malik just nodded once and said quietly, "Maybe one day you'll see we're on the same side." He walked away, his dignity untouched, but inside his heart ached. Meanwhile, Lily stayed locked in her room. Her father had said little since the story broke. Not out of calm, but out of rage so deep it had no words. He had forbidden her to leave the house. No phone, no media, no park. She sat by her window, staring out at the skyline, clutching Malik's jacket in her arms. The noise outside, the reporters, the protests, the city's endless opinions, all blended into a blur. She whispered, "They twisted it. They made it look dirty." Her mother entered quietly, carrying a tray of food. "Honey, you have to eat." Lily shook her head. "They're saying terrible things about Malik, Mom. He doesn't deserve that." Margaret sighed, sitting beside her. Truth and goodness always look dangerous to those who live in comfort. Lily turned to her mother. "Do you believe he used me?" Her mother smiled gently. "No, darling. I believe he changed you. And that's what scares your father most." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "I can't let him face this alone." Margaret touched her cheek. "Then don't, but be wise. The city's watching." At a small newsroom downtown, Ethan Price stared at the chaos his story had caused. He hadn't expected this level of backlash. His editor barked from across the room, "Good work, Price. This story's gold." Ethan frowned. "Gold? It's tearing people apart," the editor shrugged. "That's news. We don't make peace. We sell conflict." Ethan shut his laptop quietly. For the first time in his career, success felt dirty. He picked up his coat and left the office. By evening, Malik was sitting on the steps of a closed diner, his coat buttoned against the cold. He was tired, not of hunger, but of misunderstanding. A car stopped nearby. The door opened and Ethan stepped out. "Mr. Ward?" Malik looked up slowly. "You the reporter?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah, and I think I owe you an apology." Malik tilted his head. "For what?" "For turning truth into a storm." I wanted people to see your kindness, not twist it into gossip. Malik smiled faintly. Storms come and go, but sometimes they clean the air. Ethan exhaled. You talk like a preacher. Nah, Malik chuckled. Preachers get paid. I just talk so my soul don't get quiet. Ethan sat beside him. The mayor's furious. He's blaming you for everything. Malik nodded. Expected that. You're not angry? Ethan asked. Malik's eyes were soft. Anger's easy. Forgiveness takes more work. I got time to work. Ethan looked down, humbled. You're a better man than most I've met with a house. Malik smiled. Home ain't walls, son. It's peace. That's what I'm building. That night, Richard Collins stood in front of a mirror staring at his reflection. For years, he had practiced the perfect face, confident, clean, untouchable. But now he saw the cracks. He thought of Lily's words. You keep building walls while people are freezing outside them. He slammed his fist on the sink. She's just a child, he muttered. What does she know? But deep inside, another voice whispered, She knows more than you now. He poured himself a drink and sat by the window. Down below, he could see the protesters' signs glowing under the streetlights. Fix the shelters. Justice for the homeless. Kindness isn't a crime. He leaned back and closed his eyes. For the first time, he felt something strange, shame mixed with sorrow. As the wind howled through Jefferson Park, Malik sat by his bench with a small group of people, a few from the shelters, a few curious citizens who had read about him online. They brought blankets, food, and conversation. No one made speeches. They just sat, a circle of quiet hearts sharing warmth. One man said softly, We saw what they said about you on TV. We don't believe it. Malik smiled. Don't matter what they say. Just keep doing right. That's how truth survives. A woman added, People are starting to talk different. About the mayor, about us. Maybe this time it won't fade. Malik looked up at the stars. Change always starts slow, but once it starts, can't nobody stop it. He didn't know that Lily was standing far away behind the trees, watching the small fire of hope he had lit, glowing brighter than any tower her father had built. She whispered to herself, They can say what they want. I know who you are, Malik. And as she turned to leave, a small smile crossed her face. For the first time since the chaos began, she felt no fear, only purpose. It had been 5 days since the story broke. 5 days since Lily Collins's name turned from the mayor's daughter to the whistleblower. And in those 5 days, the city had become louder than ever. Outside City Hall, protesters filled the streets, holding signs chanting for justice, demanding answers about the stolen shelter funds. Every news outlet called it the Jefferson crisis. But among all the noise, one invitation was quietly delivered to Malik Ward, handwritten and sealed with the city's emblem. It read, You are invited to share your experience at the public city hearing on housing and homeless affairs. Office of the Mayor of Jefferson City. Malik stared at it for a long time. He wasn't sure if it was real or if it was a trap. But deep down, something told him this was the moment he had been waiting for his whole life. He folded the letter carefully and whispered, Guess it's time they finally hear us. Lily stood in front of her mirror, her hands trembling. She hadn't spoken to her father since their fight. The house was cold, not because of the temperature, but because silence had become the new furniture. Her mother entered quietly. You're leaving, aren't you? Lily nodded. He'll hate it, but I have to. Margaret smiled softly. He may hate it now, but one day he'll thank you. Lily picked up Malik's jacket, now neatly folded, still carrying the scent of rain and city dust. She slipped it over her shoulders like armor. I'm done hiding, she whispered. The hearing room was packed. Cameras lined the back wall. Reporters whispered, their pens ready. On one side sat city officials and lawyers in crisp suits. On the other, a row of citizens and shelter residents, volunteers, and Malik Ward sitting quietly in his clean gray coat. His hands rested on his knees, steady but humble. He didn't look nervous. He looked ready. When the mayor entered, the crowd murmured. Richard Collins' face was pale but composed. His eyes swept the room and froze, right on Malik. The memory of anger flickered across his face. But beneath it, a trace of something new. Uncertainty. He sat at the center table. Let's begin, he said. The first half of the hearing was filled with numbers, charts, and excuses. Lawyers defended. Contractors deflected. The mayor's voice was calm, but his fingers drummed the table restless. Finally, the chairwoman spoke. We will now hear from Mr. Malik Ward, a citizen directly affected by these issues. All cameras turned toward him. Malik stood slowly, adjusting his coat. For a second, the city seemed to hold its breath. He walked to the microphone, looked at the council, then at the crowd. His voice when he spoke was soft, but every word carried weight. Malik's speech. My name's Malik Ward. I used to build homes. Good ones. I worked hard, paid taxes, believed in the system. Then one day someone lied and I lost everything. Not just my job, my home, my name, my hope. He paused. The room was silent. I live in Jefferson Park now. Some folks call it the city's backyard. I call it the part people don't want to see. Every night I watch families sleep under the same stars y'all campaign under. But our stars don't shine the same. He looked at the council members one by one. We don't want handouts. We want fairness. We want roofs that don't leak, promises that don't break, and leaders who remember that titles don't make them better. Just more responsible. Murmurs filled the room. Some nodded, others looked uncomfortable. Malik continued. A young woman came to that park one night. She was crying, lost, scared. I gave her my jacket not because she was the mayor's daughter, I didn't even know who she was, but because she was human. He turned toward the mayor. That's what this city forgot, sir. How to be human. Richard Collins's jaw clenched, but his eyes softened. Malik's voice grew gentler. You build towers, sir.
I build faith, I brick by brick, smile by smile.
You think I'm poor because I ain't got a house, but maybe the city's poor because it's lost its heart. The audience gasped softly. Some even clapped before being hushed. Malik stepped back, his voice quiet again. I don't hate you, Mr. Mayor. I just hope you remember what your daughter already learned, that helping someone who can't help you back, that's the only real power there is. He turned away from the mic and sat back down. The room was silent for a long, heavy minute. Then, the doors at the back opened. Lily walked in, wearing Malik's jacket, her chin lifted high. Reporters whispered wildly. Cameras clicked. The mayor froze. She walked straight to Malik and sat beside him, her hand resting lightly on his arm. I'm here, she said softly. Malik smiled, whispering, Didn't think you'd make it. I wouldn't miss it, she said. The chairwoman looked around the room. Miss Collins, would you like to make a statement? Lily stood. Yes, she took a deep breath, her voice steady. My name is Lily Collins. I'm not here as the mayor's daughter. I'm here as a witness to kindness. I watched this man, a man my father's system forgot, show me more humanity than most people in power ever have. He didn't just save me that night. He reminded me what it means to care. She turned to the mayor, tears in her eyes. Dad, I didn't betray you. I tried to save you. From pride, from blindness, from becoming a man I couldn't recognize anymore. The mayor's lips trembled slightly. His eyes for once looked wet. The room was silent again. Then applause broke. Quiet at first, then stronger until even some of the council members joined in. When it ended, the mayor sat alone for a while, staring at the empty microphones. Reporters waited for a statement, but he didn't speak. He just looked at his daughter, at the jacket she wore, at the man beside her, but then saw for the first time what leadership should look like. He finally whispered to himself, maybe the city's been building the wrong things. Outside, Malik and Lily stood together on the city hall steps. The crowd surrounded them, no longer with suspicion but with respect. One reporter asked, Mr. Ward, do you think your speech will change anything? Malik smiled gently. I don't know, but I hope it changed someone. Lily looked at him and whispered, It already did. Night fell over Jefferson City like a tired sigh. The city was calmer now. Not silent, but different. For the first time in years, the mayor's office lights burned late into the night, not for meetings or cameras, but for reflection. Richard Collins sat alone behind his desk. The walls, once filled with pride and framed photos of smiling campaigns, now felt like they were watching him. In front of him lay a stack of headlines. Mayor faces pressure after emotional hearing. Homeless man's speech sparks hope across the city. Lily Collins praised for courage. He rubbed his face with both hands. the weight of every headline pressing against his heart. His phone buzzed again, reporters, allies, even opponents calling for statements. He didn't answer. He just stared at the reflection in the dark window across from him. For the first time, he didn't see a leader. He saw a man who had lost sight of what mattered. He whispered, "You built towers and lost your home." His thoughts drifted back to the hearing, Malik's voice echoing in his memory. "You think I'm poor because I ain't got a house. But maybe the city's poor because it's lost its heart." Those words kept looping in his mind like a melody he couldn't escape. He thought of his daughter, standing beside Malik in his jacket, fearless and proud. He thought of the look in her eyes, not anger but disappointment. And for the first time in decades, Richard Collins felt small. He stood up slowly and walked to the large mirror near his office wall, the one his staff called the power mirror. Every morning, he used it to fix his tie before press conferences to check if his smile looked right, if his posture screamed confidence. But tonight he didn't see confidence. He saw exhaustion. He saw a man who had chased applause and lost affection. He saw a father who knew how to build buildings but not bridges. His reflection spoke to him, not in sound, but in feeling. "You forgot who you were building for." He pressed his hand against the mirror and whispered, "What have I done?" A soft knock came at the door. He turned. His assistant stood there nervously. "Sir, there's someone here to see you. I told you, no meetings." "I know," the assistant said quietly. "But it's Mr. Ward." The mayor froze. For a moment he thought he'd misheard. "Malik Ward?" "Yes, sir." He said he wouldn't take long. Richard hesitated, then sighed. "Send him in." Malik entered the room quietly, hat in hand, his new coat still neatly buttoned. He nodded politely. "Evening, Mr. Mayor." Richard studied him for a moment. This man who had turned his entire city upside down with nothing but truth. "What are you doing here?" Richard asked softly. Malik smiled faintly. "Didn't come to fight, sir. Came to talk." The mayor gestured toward the chair. "Sit," Malik shook his head. "Nah, I'll stand. I'm used to it." A small smile tugged at the mayor's lips. "All right, speak." Malik looked around the office and at the polished furniture, the golden seal on the wall, the photo of the mayor shaking hands with powerful men. Then his eyes met Richard's. "Sir, I know what it feels like to lose something that defines you," Malik began. "When I lost my job, I kept telling myself I still had control, still had pride. But pride don't build nothing. It just blinds you." Richard said nothing, his eyes glistening. Malik continued. "You got a chance most folks never get, to fix what broke before it's too late. People out there ain't angry because they hate you, sir. They're angry because they still believe you can do better." Richard's throat tightened. "You really think anyone still believes in me?" Malik nodded. "One person does. And sometimes that's enough." The mayor looked away. "Lily?" "Yeah," Malik said softly. "She sees something in you the cameras don't. That kind of faith. You don't earn it with speeches. You earn it with actions." Richard leaned forward, his voice cracking. "I've made mistakes, Ward, big ones. You said I forgot how to be human. You were right." They stood in silence for a long moment. Then Richard walked to his desk and picked up the blueprints for the Jefferson redevelopment project. He looked at them, at the neat lines and empty promises, and then tore them in half. Malik's eyes widened slightly. "Richard, drop the papers into the trash." "No more towers on broken backs," he said quietly. Malik nodded slowly. "That's a start." The mayor turned toward him. "If I fix this, if I rebuild those shelters, pay what's owed, and open new programs, would you help me?" Malik raised an eyebrow. "You want my help?" "I need your honesty," Richard said. "The city listens to you now more than it does to me." Malik smiled softly. "Then I'll help. But not for you. For the people." Richard nodded. "Fair enough." He extended his hand. Malik looked at it for a moment, the same hand that once pointed him away, and then shook it firmly. Two men, one once invisible, the other untouchable, finally standing on the same ground. Later that night, Malik walked through Jefferson Park under the stars. He stopped by his bench, sat down, and let out a long breath. He wasn't sure what would come next, but for the first time he believed it would be good. The city was changing, slowly, painfully, but truly. He looked up at the stars and whispered, Even towers can bend when truth hits 'em right. At home, Richard found Lily waiting in the living room. She looked up wary. "Are you still angry?" He shook his head. No, her eyes widened. "Then what are you?" He smiled sadly. Tired of being right, she walked to him slowly. "What happened?" He took her hand. "I spoke with Malik. He reminded me of something I forgot. That leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest." Tears welled in her eyes. "You really talked to him?" Richard nodded. "And tomorrow I'll start fixing what I broke." Lily hugged him tightly, whispering, "That's all I ever wanted." He held her, whispering back, "And that's all I should have wanted too." Outside, the city lights blinked like 1,000 small hopes being lit one by one, and in one quiet park under the same old bench, a man with nothing had just helped a powerful man remember everything. Morning came with golden light spilling through Jefferson City, a light that felt new, like the city was finally waking up after years of sleep. For the first time in months, the mayor's office didn't start the day with anger or politics. It started with purpose. Richard Collins stood in front of his window holding a cup of coffee and staring down at the city below. The streets that once felt like chessboards now looked like veins, carrying life, not power. He turned to his assistant and said quietly, "Call a press meeting." But this time no speeches, just action. Later that morning, reporters crowded the steps of City Hall again. But this time, there was no shouting, no tension, only curiosity. The mayor walked up to the podium, not in his usual polished suit, but in a simple shirt with rolled-up sleeves. Lily stood behind him, calm and proud. He cleared his throat. His voice, though steady, carried something it never had before: humility. "Good morning, everyone. I won't take much of your time. This city has always talked about progress, buildings, projects, campaigns, but I realize now, we forgot the people who make this city breathe. We can't call ourselves successful when our neighbors sleep on benches, or when a shelter roof leaks while towers shine." Reporters looked up, surprised. This was not the same man they had known. He continued, "Effective immediately, the Jefferson redevelopment project is suspended. Funds will be redirected to repair and reopen every shelter we closed. The city will audit all contracts and hold those responsible for misuse of public funds accountable." He paused, then smiled faintly. "And one more thing. I'll be working with Mr. Malik Ward and community volunteers to make sure these promises stay real." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cameras flashed. Lily's eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "You did it." Her father smiled softly. No, he did. By noon, the whole city was talking. People stopped in cafes, on buses, and in schools to watch the announcement replayed on TV. Some didn't believe it. Others cried quietly, whispering, "Finally." In Jefferson Park, Malik sat on his bench surrounded by neighbors, shelter workers, volunteers, kids, and even a few officers who once ignored him. An old man said, "Malik, you hear the news?" "The mayor's fixing the shelters." Malik smiled, eyes shining. "Told you all the truth sings eventually." A young boy grinned. "They said your name on TV. You're famous." Malik laughed. "Fame don't fix roofs, son. But maybe faith does." They all laughed with him. Over the next few weeks, construction trucks arrived at the Jefferson shelter. This time there were no lies, no stolen contracts. Malik was there every morning helping organize volunteers. He wore a city badge, community liaison, temporary but official. For the first time in years, he had purpose, not just survival. He taught young workers how to lay bricks, measure wood, and fix leaks the right way. When one of them asked, "Ain't you tired of working for the same city that forgot you?" Malik smiled and said, "Better to fix what's broken than to just curse it." Lily visited often, bringing food for the volunteers, helping paint walls, and documenting every small success. The news called her the mayor's heart, but she didn't care about the titles. She just wanted to build, for real this time. Back in his office, Richard Collins worked differently now. No more private dinners with developers, no more empty smiles for cameras. He visited shelters quietly without reporters. He shook hands with workers, not donors. He even brought coffee to Malik one morning, surprising him. "You really came down here," Malik said with a grin. The mayor smiled back. "Couldn't let you have all the credit." Malik nodded. "Guess the city's got room for both of us now." They walked the site together. A mayor and a homeless man side by side, not as enemies, but as men trying to rebuild what pride had broken. As the weeks turned to months, the changes became visible. The shelters reopened, clean and warm. New programs hired the homeless for maintenance and training jobs. The streets felt safer, kinder. One evening, a local news anchor said, in what many are calling the Ward Initiative, Jefferson City has launched the most successful housing reform in decades. It began with one man's compassion, a homeless builder named Malik Ward. Malik watched the report from a small shelter TV, smiling quietly. "I didn't build this city," he said softly. "I just reminded it what hands are for." One night, Lily walked through Jefferson Park again. It was cleaner now. No trash, no fear, just people gathering under soft lights. Malik was fixing a bench with a hammer. She smiled. "You're still working?" He looked up. "You know me. Can't leave a loose nail alone." She laughed and sat beside him. "You've changed everything, Malik." He shook his head. "Nah, people change themselves. I just gave him a reason." She looked around. "The city's brighter now," he nodded. "That's what happens when folks start looking instead of looking away." That same night, Richard stood at his window again, but this time his reflection didn't haunt him. He saw his city, alive, humble, hopeful. He whispered, "You did good, kid," thinking of Lily. Then, with a faint smile, "And you too, Ward." He took down an old campaign poster from the wall. It said Collins for Progress. He folded it carefully and placed it in the trash. Then he wrote 3 words on a notepad for his next speech. Progress means people. Later that week, Malik walked to his old bench, now freshly painted. He sat down looking at the city skyline glowing against the night. He remembered the first night he met Lily. Her tears, the rain, his jacket. He smiled, whispering, "We came a long way, huh?" A little girl walked by with her mother, waving. "Hi, Mr. Malik." He waved back. "Hey there, sweetheart." As she walked away, he leaned back, closing his eyes. For the first time in years, the city didn't feel cold. It felt like home. The smell of fresh paint filled the air. Hammers struck rhythmically, saws buzzed softly, and laughter echoed through the walls of Jefferson Shelter, once forgotten, now reborn. Sunlight poured through new windows as children ran down clean hallways, their voices filling the space that used to echo with silence. And in the middle of it all stood Malik Ward, hard hat on, clipboard in hand, and a calm smile on his face. He was no longer the man sitting invisible on a park bench. He was Mr. Ward now, supervisor of shelter operations. The title didn't matter much to him, but the trust behind it did. He wiped sweat from his brow as he helped a young worker fix a broken door frame. No, Malik said gently, guiding his hands. "You ain't fighting the wood, son. You're working with it. Like people, treat it rough, it splinters. Treat it steady, it holds." The boy nodded, smiling. "Got it, Mr. Malik." Malik clapped his shoulder. "Good man. Keep going." Outside, a small crowd gathered to watch the final phase of construction. Among them was Lily Collins holding a box of sandwiches and water bottles for the crew. Her hair was tied back, her clothes simple, her smile bright. "Break time, everyone," she called out. The workers cheered, grateful for a pause. Malik walked over, shaking his head with a grin. "You keep showing up like this, they'll start thinking you're the boss." She laughed. "Oh, please. You're the boss here, Malik," he smiled. "Boss don't mean nothing if you ain't helping people rise with you." Lily nodded. "That's why they follow you." He paused, looking around at the people, men and women who once had nothing, now working together. "Nah," he said softly. "They follow hope. I just carry the torch for a bit." That afternoon, a black sedan pulled up outside the shelter. Workers straightened up. Cameras flashed as Mayor Richard Collins stepped out, not for a political photo, but because he wanted to see what his city had built. He looked around, genuinely impressed. "It's beautiful," he said quietly. Malik wiped his hands on a rag and walked over. "Didn't think you'd make it today." The mayor smiled faintly. "Wouldn't miss it." He shook Malik's hand, not as a favor, not for show, but with gratitude. Reporters captured the moment, but for once no one cared about headlines. It wasn't news. It was healing. Richard looked around the shelter, listening to the laughter of children and the sounds of hammers turning into harmony. He said softly, "I used to think progress meant buildings, but now I see it means people like you." Malik chuckled. Told you once before, sir. Towers fall if they forget the ground they stand on. The mayor smiled. And you were right. You've built something stronger than any tower. Later that day, the doors of the Jefferson shelter officially reopened. Families stepped inside, some crying, some silent with disbelief. There were new beds, clean kitchens, reading corners for children, and walls painted with murals of hope, bright colors, open hands, rising suns. Lily had organized an art drive to let shelter residents paint their own dreams on the walls. Above the main entrance, a little boy had painted one sentence in blue letters: "Home is where someone cares." Malik stood before it, his eyes misty. He whispered, "Ain't that the truth?" But Malik's mission didn't stop there. With the mayor's quiet support, he started a city hand program, an initiative to train homeless citizens in construction and maintenance. The idea was simple: help people rebuild their lives by letting them rebuild their city. In just 2 months, 50 men and women had already completed their training. Many got jobs repairing city benches, playgrounds, and community centers. Every day, Malik taught them not just skills, but values. He'd say, "These hands ain't meant to beg. They're meant to build. You fix something, you fix yourself a little too." People listened. They believed him. Because Malik didn't just teach, he lived it. One evening, Lily sat on the shelter steps watching the sunset paint the sky gold. Malik walked over, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Still working?" She smiled. "Just thinking about how far we've come," he nodded. "You proud? Of you?" "Always," she said softly. He smiled. "Don't be proud of me. Be proud of what we made. You had the courage to speak up. You lit the fuse," she laughed. "And you built the fire." They clinked their paper cups together like champagne glasses. Lily looked at him warmly. "You know, my father said something last night." "Oh yeah?" Malik asked. He said, "Tell Ward this city owes him more than words." Malik chuckled. "Tell him I don't take payment in money. Just make sure the roofs stay dry and the hearts stay open." Lily smiled. "He's learning from you now." Malik looked out at the city skyline, bright and alive. "Guess we're all learning." A week later, the official Jefferson Shelter reopening ceremony was held. The mayor cut the red ribbon but insisted that Malik stand beside him. The cameras flashed. The crowd cheered, and for a brief moment, the city stood united, rich, poor, powerful, forgotten, all in one frame. A reporter asked Malik afterward, "How does it feel to be a hero?" He smiled quietly. "I ain't no hero. I'm just a man who stopped looking away." That answer spread across social media, quoted, shared, and printed on posters all over the city. Underneath his picture, people wrote, "Stop looking away. Start caring." That night, when everyone had gone, Malik walked alone through the shelter. He touched the smooth walls, the sturdy beds, the lights that worked. Every nail, every screw, every stroke of paint. It was proof that healing was possible. He looked down at his hands, rough, scarred, but steady. "Guess you finally found your purpose," he whispered. Then he smiled softly. "You ain't just building walls anymore. You're building peace." The shelter was quiet that evening. Sunlight slipped through the windows, casting warm gold across the floor. The last of the volunteers had left, and Malik Ward sat alone, organizing tools for the next day's repairs. He liked these quiet hours, when the world finally slowed down enough to breathe. He picked up a hammer, wiped it clean, and smiled softly. "You and me, old friend," he said to the tool. "We fixed more than walls this year." Just then, he heard footsteps in the hallway, steady, slow, and unfamiliar. He turned toward the doorway. Standing there was Mayor Richard Collins. But this wasn't the proud man from the posters. This was a man without the armor of his title. No cameras, no staff, no security. He wore a simple coat, eyes tired but soft. Malik smiled faintly. "Didn't expect the mayor to stop by this late." Richard returned a small smile. "Tonight I'm not the mayor. Just a man who needed to say something." He stepped into the room and looked around the shelter, the polished floors, the repaired windows, the murals on the walls. "You did all this," Richard said quietly. "You took something I neglected and turned it into hope." Malik shook his head. "We did this, sir. Took more than 2 hands." Richard walked closer. "Still, it started with yours." He paused, then took a slow breath. "Malik, I came here to apologize. Not for politics and for pride. For the way I treated you. For the way I judged you before even knowing your story. Malik said nothing at first. He just looked at him. The same calm, steady gaze that had once angered the mayor but now humbled him. Finally, Malik said, "You ain't the first man to forget how to see. City life does that. Makes folks blind to anything that don't shine." Richard nodded, eyes glistening. "Lily was right about you. She said you were the kind of man this city needed. Honest, patient, and unbreakable." Malik chuckled softly. "She's something else, that girl. Got more courage than most folks twice her age." The mayor smiled sadly. "She gets that from her mother. Not from me." They sat down at one of the long wooden tables, the kind used for shared meals. For a while they said nothing. The only sound was the faint hum of the shelter's new heater. Richard broke the silence. "You know, I used to think power meant control, over people, decisions, image. But when I saw my daughter stand beside you, I realized I'd lost control of the one thing that mattered most. My heart." Malik nodded slowly. "Power don't mean much if it can't heal. You figured that out just in time." The mayor looked down, ashamed. "I was afraid. Of looking weak. Of losing respect." Malik smiled. "Funny thing about respect, you can't buy it. You earn it by listening when it hurts most." Richard looked at him, voice breaking. "And you listened when I didn't deserve it. You treated my daughter like a human being when I couldn't even see her pain." Malik's expression softened. "Wasn't hard, sir. She reminded me of the best part of people, the part that still believes." For a long moment the mayor stared at the table, his eyes watering. Then he whispered, "Can you forgive me?" Malik smiled faintly. "Already did." Richard looked up, surprised. "Just like that?" Malik nodded. "Holding hate don't fix nothing. Besides, forgiving you ain't for you. It's for me. It's how I stay free." Richard exhaled, a long, shaking breath that sounded like relief. He whispered, "Thank you, Malik. You've taught me more about leadership than any book, any council or any election ever could." Malik chuckled. "Didn't teach nothing, sir. Just reminded you of what you already knew." The mayor smiled through misty eyes. "Maybe. But I needed reminding." Richard reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small envelope. He slid it across the table. "This isn't charity. It's partnership." "A proposal?" Malik raised an eyebrow. "Partnership?" Richard nodded. "The city council approved a new initiative, the Malik Ward Housing Trust. It's a fund that'll continue building affordable housing and shelters under your guidance. You'll be on the board, paid full-time with full authority to choose projects." Malik blinked, stunned. "You serious?" "Dead serious," Richard said, smiling. "You gave this city its heart back. The least we can do is make sure your work keeps going, even long after we're gone." Malik stared at the envelope for a long moment, then pushed it back gently. "I'll do it," he said. "But not for titles or money. I'll do it 'cause this city's still got people worth fighting for." Richard nodded, his throat tight. "That's exactly why you deserve it." As they stood to leave, Richard extended his hand again, the same way he did months ago in anger. But this time Malik shook it firmly. Two equals, two men bound by truth. The mayor said softly, "I spent years building walls, Malik. You tore them down with kindness." Malik smiled. "Nah, you tore them down yourself. I just handed you the hammer." They both laughed quietly. Just then, Lily appeared in the doorway holding a small bouquet of flowers. "I thought I heard voices," she said, smiling. Her father turned, eyes warm. "You did, and for once they were good ones." She walked over, hugged her father first, then turned to Malik. "You two finally talking like friends?" Malik grinned. "Nah, like old builders. We just found the right tools," Lily laughed softly. "You two are impossible." Richard looked at both of them, his daughter, the soul of his change, and the man who had taught him how to listen. He whispered, "You're both what this city needs." Lily smiled. "No, Dad. What the city needs is more of this, a forgiveness." As Richard prepared to leave, he turned back to Malik. "You've given me something no one else ever has." Malik tilted his head. "What's that, sir?" "Peace," the mayor said quietly. "Real peace," Malik smiled warmly. "Then keep it. Don't lose it again." Richard nodded, shook his hand one last time, and walked out. Lily stood beside Malik, watching him go. "He's different now," she said softly. Malik looked toward the door. We all are. Then he turned back to his workbench, picking up the same hammer he'd held before. Now, he said with a grin, let's get back to building. Lily laughed. You never stop, do you? Malik winked. Not when there's still hope to fix. That night, when the lights dimmed and the city grew quiet, Malik stood outside the shelter. Looking up at the stars, he whispered, Thank you, God, for second chances. And somewhere across the city, in a tall building filled with papers and power, the mayor whispered the same words. Spring came early to Jefferson City that year. The air felt lighter. The streets looked cleaner. And for the first time in decades, people spoke about hope instead of headlines. Across neighborhoods, small posters appeared on fences and store windows. They all carried the same simple phrase in blue letters, keep building hope. It wasn't a campaign slogan. It was a promise. A promise started by a homeless man named Malik Ward. 2 months after the shelter reopening, the mayor's office announced a public celebration, the Festival of Hands. No politics. No sponsors. Just a thank you to the people who had helped rebuild Jefferson City. The plaza outside City Hall was filled with food trucks, music, laughter, and long tables where volunteers painted murals of open palms reaching toward the sky. Children from the shelters danced on the stage. Community workers handed out free meals, and in the center of it all stood a bronze sculpture, 2 hands clasped together, one rough and scarred, the other smooth and strong. At its base, a small plaque read, Dedicated to Malik Ward, who reminded us that humanity is the foundation of every home. Malik stood off to the side, uncomfortable in the spotlight but smiling quietly. He wore a simple shirt and the same gray coat that had seen him through rain, hardship, and redemption. Lily found him there, holding 2 cups of lemonade. You're the guest of honor, she teased. Why are you hiding? He chuckled. I ain't hiding. Just enjoying watching folks smile. That's better than any medal. She handed him a cup. You deserve both. As the crowd gathered near the stage, the mayor stepped up to the microphone. But instead of launching into a speech, he turned toward his daughter. I think today someone else should speak for the city, he said. Then he gestured to Lily. Applause rippled through the plaza. Lily took the microphone, her heart pounding. Behind her, Malik watched quietly, pride shining in his tired eyes. She began softly. When this started, I was lost. I was the mayor's daughter, born into comfort but empty inside. Then one rainy night, a man with nothing gave me something priceless. Kindness. The crowd listened, silent. He didn't ask who I was. He didn't ask for anything. He just saw me, and in that moment he taught me what leadership really means, to see people when the world looks away. She looked at her father, smiling. My dad learned it too. So did all of us. Because kindness doesn't belong to one person, it spreads. It changes people. It builds cities better than bricks ever could. Then she turned toward Malik. Mr. Ward, you didn't just fix a shelter. You rebuilt our faith. You showed us that healing begins with hands willing to help. Thank you. The crowd rose to its feet, clapping and cheering. Malik felt his chest tighten, tears threatening to fall. He tipped his head slightly in gratitude. After the speech, people lined up to shake Malik's hand. Construction workers, single mothers, police officers, students, each one saying, Thank you. A young man from the shelter training program stepped forward nervously. Mr. Malik, I got my first apartment last week. You taught me how to build walls and break them too. Malik laughed softly, clapping his shoulder. Proud of you, son. Keep them hands working. Everywhere he turned, people were helping one another. Neighbors fixing benches together, kids cleaning playgrounds, volunteers painting murals. Jefferson City had turned compassion into habit. Later that evening, when the crowd thinned, Mayor Collins joined Malik near the new sculpture. He looked up at the clasped hands, his eyes moist. I've spent my whole life wanting monuments, he said quietly. But this one means more than all the others combined. Malik smiled. Funny thing about monuments, sir. The best ones don't reach the sky. They reach hearts. Richard nodded. You were right about that. Always were. He turned to Malik. There's something I haven't told you. The council voted this morning. The city's making the Ward Initiative permanent. You'll head the entire program, citywide. Malik blinked, stunned. Citywide? Richard grinned. Every district, every neighborhood. You'll have offices, staff, and funding. Jefferson City's gonna keep building hope long after we're gone. Malik's eyes glistened. Well then, he said softly, let's get to work. Later that night, Malik walked through the park alone. The benches were newly painted. The lights glowed soft and golden. He stopped at the same old spot, his bench, now carrying a small brass plate that read, "In honor of Malik Ward, a man who never stopped believing." He ran his fingers over the letters and whispered, "Didn't do it alone." Lily appeared behind him, smiling. "I knew I'd find you here." He turned, grinning. "Old habits." She looked up at the sky. "The city feels different now." Malik nodded. "It is different. You can hear it in the silence." Peace finally got a sound. They sat together for a while, watching the stars reflect on the wet pavement. Lily broke the silence softly. "Do you ever miss the old days?" Malik shook his head. "Nah, back then I was just surviving. Now I'm living." "That's a big difference," she smiled. "You earned it," he laughed gently. "I just followed the light. Turns out it was coming from a crying girl in the rain." She laughed through tears. "And turns out it was coming from a man with nothing who gave everything." Across the city, lights stayed on a little later that night. Not because of fear, but because people were talking. About kindness, about hope, about doing better. The homeless program expanded. Businesses volunteered supplies. Schools began teaching students about Malik's story, the man who built hope. And somewhere in every heart, a quiet understanding settled in. One small act of kindness can rebuild an entire world. Before heading home, Malik looked once more at the skyline. The glass towers still shimmered, but they no longer blinded him. They looked softer now, like the city was bowing in gratitude. He whispered, "You're awake now, Jefferson." Then he smiled, turned off the park lights and walked toward the shelter. His home, years past. The skyline of Jefferson City had changed again, but this time the change felt alive. New shelters stood where forgotten buildings once crumbled. Parks were clean, benches full of laughter. And in every neighborhood you could see one sign on the walls, written in bold blue letters. Keep building hope. It had become the city's heartbeat. A promise that outlasted politics. Malik Ward still wore the same gray coat, though it had been patched a few times. He never traded it for a suit. Every morning he walked the streets he once slept on, greeting shop owners, volunteers, and kids who shouted, "Hey, Mr. Malik." He'd wave back, "Morning, y'all." Keep them hands busy. He didn't have guards or drivers. He carried a lunchbox, a thermos of coffee, and the same calm smile that had once comforted a crying girl in the rain. When people asked him why he never moved to a bigger house, he'd grin and say, "I already live in one. It's called Jefferson." Inside the newly built Malik Ward Training Center, young men and women practiced carpentry, plumbing, and electrical work. On the wall hung a framed quote in Malik's handwriting, "If your hands can fix something, your heart can too." He visited the center every week, walking from station to station, encouraging the students. One teenager asked, "Mr. Malik, were you really homeless?" Malik nodded. "Sure was." The boy looked surprised. "Weren't you scared?" Malik smiled. "Every day. But fear ain't the problem, son. Staying scared, that's the problem." The students loved him. They called him Coach. He called them builders. He'd tell them, "One day y'all will build more than shelters. You'll build people." Lily Collins had become a city advocate for youth housing programs. She refused luxury titles or easy jobs. Her work took her into schools, shelters, and rough streets, the places her father's limousine used to avoid. Whenever reporters asked about her success, she always gave the same answer. "I learned everything I know from a man with calloused hands and a heart too big for the world to ignore." She still visited Malik often, sometimes with news of projects, sometimes just to talk and laugh over coffee. Their friendship had become a quiet legend, a story people told their children to remind them that kindness could cross any line. When Mayor Richard Collins finally stepped down, his last act in office was to rename Jefferson Park. The plaque read, "Malik Ward Park, where hope began." During the ceremony, he handed the microphone to Malik. Malik looked out over the crowd. Families, workers, students, city leaders. He shook his head gently. I ain't much for speeches, he began, voice warm and steady. I just want y'all to remember, don't wait for heroes. Be one. Kindness don't need permission. It just needs practice. The applause lasted for minutes. The mayor wiped his eyes as he whispered, You were the best decision the city ever made. One summer morning, a young reporter delivered a letter to Malik's office. It was from a small town miles away. It read, Dear Mr. Ward, I saw your story online. I used to think people like me couldn't make a difference. Now I'm starting a shelter in my hometown. I'm naming it after you. Tara Moore, age 19. Malik smiled, folded the letter and slipped it into his coat pocket. He looked up at the sky and whispered, Guess hope travels faster than trains. Years later, when Malik was older and his hair had turned silver, he returned often to the bench where it had all begun. The city had replaced it with a new one, stronger wood, brighter paint, but he still called it his bench. Children played nearby. Volunteers passed out food. Lily sometimes joined him, bringing his favorite sweet tea. One quiet evening, as the sun sank low, she asked, Malik, do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't helped me that night? He smiled softly. Sometimes. But then I remember, kindness don't wait for what-ifs. It just does. She took his hand. You changed everything. He looked at her, eyes kind. No, Lily. We changed everything. They sat in silence, listening to the laughter echo across the park. A few winters later, the city gathered again, not in protest or panic, but in gratitude. Malik Ward had passed away quietly in his sleep, in the same shelter he helped rebuild. Next to his bed lay a small note in his handwriting. Don't cry. Just keep building. The mayor, now gray-haired, stood beside Lily as the crowd lit candles. She held Malik's old gray coat close to her chest, tears shining in her eyes. In that moment, the wind blew softly through the park, brushing the candles like a whisper, as if the city itself was saying goodbye. A year later, the city opened a new statue in the center of Malik Ward Park. It wasn't grand. It showed a simple man sitting on a bench, a gentle smile on his face, one hand stretched outward, offering help. Below it, a quote was engraved. One act of kindness can rebuild a city. Every morning, people left flowers, tools, and letters at the base. Children touched the statue's hand before school. Workers nodded as they passed, whispering, Morning, Mr. Malik. And though he was gone, his spirit lingered in every repaired wall, every warm meal, every hopeful heart. One evening, the camera of time pans across Jefferson City, shelters glowing, laughter in the air, lights reflecting on the streets. It stops on the statue of Malik Ward, the quiet hero of Jefferson. A child's voice narrates softly, My mama says Mr. Malik built this city, but I think he just taught it how to love. The screen fades to black. Then a final line appears in white letters. Don't wait to be seen. Be the one who sees.